So this tutorial is going to cover building a mobile first web page. So this is what we'll end up with, the page here when I'm viewing it in the browser. Got 4 columns, menu system on the top, and if I just resized it, show what it would look like on a mobile device, you see we get a mobile view here with a little menu system that will do that. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to do it pretty much from scratch. The only thing that I've got to start off with is the images. So I've got the images that I've needed here. Show you those as and when we use them. I'm going to use Visual Studio Code, and I'm just going to drag that folder into Visual Studio Code to start off with. Right, so there's just the images. Right, so we've got some SVG files which I use for menus and some images here just to give the pages a little bit more interest. Right, so I'm going to structure this. So I'm going to create a folder called CSS as well, and I'll create a folder called JS for my JavaScript. So always name your folders in lowercase would be my advice, and avoid white spacing and any special characters. And I'll just create a index page as well. Index HTML, Visual Studio Code puts little angle brackets in there so we know that this is a HTML page. Okay, right, so completely blank page. The beauty of Visual Studio Code is it has something called Emmet installed. If you've not come across Emmet, have a little Google for Emmet code for HTML. There's some little cheat sheets and stuff that you can find, but there's all kinds of abbreviations for writing super quick code. I'll flag these up as and when I use them. This is the starting one. If you put in an exclamation marks, it's going to tell me this is an Emmet abbreviation, because when I hit tab, it automatically puts in the bare bones of a HTML document there for me. Now I'm going to adopt a mobile approach first. So I'm going to design this for view on a mobile application first of all. So it's handy that Emmet has put this meta tag in here. This is an important one. This will get the browser in the mobile device to respect the design that I'm choosing, rather than applying a different kind of viewport value, which is what it would do if that value was missing. So it's important that that viewport tag is in there, and Emmet will stick it in for me automatically. Right, so let's give this a title, my site, and then I'm going to structure the HTML for this. So most of the work that I'm doing here is related to the CSS, but first of all I need a decent structure. So I'm going to put in a div. This is Emmet again, because if I put in div.container, so notice this is going in the body, and so the dot will give me a class, which it does. So I just historically like to put a div tag in there so that the content stays within that. Although we probably won't use in this example, it's always a good idea to have a container in case you need it. Inside of that, I'm going to put in a header container. This is going to hold all the bits and pieces that make up the header of my page. So that's going to be this content up here, this little site name, and then the navigation along the top. And then in the mobile view, there'll be the burger menu feature will go in there as well. So let's use the HTML5 semantic element of header. So place that inside of there. So this is going to get a little bit, this div is going to be a bit more control over the header. So if in doubt, stick extra content in, extra divs to logical divisions, gives you more control. Okay, now we get into the meat of the matter. So inside of this header, I'll have a div again, and this will have a h2, and this will be my site. So that is going to be this bit of text up here. And then as a sibling of that, so at the same level, I'm going to add in another div, and I'll call this burger menu container. Hit tab, and see that's a sibling, it's at the same level, they're both children of header, and inside of here I'm going to use an image. This is going to be for my mobile view, because in my mobile view I want to have the burger menu here, so that's what I'm going to add in at this point. So I'll stick in an image. It's failed me there. Just do img. There we go. So this is going to be. I'm going to put a black background in on this. So I've got a white menu SVG file, which is scalable vector graphic, nice and lightweight for this. So this will be my menu. You put an alt in for people with assistive technologies, and I'll give this a width of 30 pixels. Let's give this an ID as well so that we can reference it. So I'll call this burger menu. Okay, so when I've saved that, I've got Prettier installed, which is an extension, which means that when I save it, it automatically formats it for me. So do have a look at that. If you've not looked at extensions in Visual Studio Code, that's why when I saved this, it's placed those on multiple lines. Okay, right. So I've got my div there with my site name, and I've got the div with the burger menu in it, and I then want to actually have the navigation. So the navigation will be this in mobile view, and desktop view it's going to be placed like so. So this is my nav for navigation, and I want an unordered list. So this is emit. Again, I'm going to use an unordered list, and I'll say that I want that to be the parent of a list item. And I'll say that I actually want 4 list items, and inside of those I'll have an anchor tag. So that's an emit abbreviations, it says. Hit tab, it adds that in. So let me just put in index.html there. So that would be home. And then we might have something like latest news, and then something like archive. Obviously these are just all made up. And contact us maybe. Okay, and these would all be hyperlinks to pages that I'm not going to create, but once you've got one created, you'll see how you could easily add different content to these. Right, so that's our menu system, that's our header actually done. So we've got 3 elements there that are children of the header. Great, so what I'll do is I'll collapse that down then, because my next element is going to be the main content. So I'll call this main. So this is a HTML5 semantic tag. So I'll put my main content inside of here. And I'm going to have, within inside main, we're going to have this welcome. We'll have these images and this text descriptions. So what I want then is I'll put in a div, and inside of that I'll have a H1 because it's going to be most important heading. So I'll say welcome. Okay, that will do for that logical division. Then I'm going to have a div of class, I'll call it articles. These are going to be these 1, 2, 3, 4 articles across the top there. So Emmet can let you down if you don't do it straight away. So there we go, there's a div of class articles, and I'm then going to place inside of these a div for each one of the articles. So each of the articles is going to have an image, and then a heading, and then some text. So first of all, let's put the image in there. I'll put that in a div, and I'll put in an image, and I'll use one of my images. So I've got grids art there. So let's just call this grid art. Okay, and then I'll have another div underneath that. oh sorry, I'm not going to have a H3, which will have my heading. So let's call this some article 1. And then I want some text, just a paragraph of text. Now, I'm not going to type loads of text in. So there's loads of these lorem ipsum generators out there. This is one I've found where you can just generate a paragraph of text for me. Just holding text. I'll stick that in there. Like so. Right. So that's one article created. So that's in articles. So if I collapse that down, that's all inside of there. So we've got the image, we've got the heading 3, and we've got the paragraph tag, and that all closes off inside of, oh, so that's an extra one there. Just get rid of that. That's better. So it's a good job I checked this. So this div here pairs with that one there. That's exactly what I want. So articles is going to have multiple ones of these. There's going to be 4 of these in total. So let me copy what I've got there, paste that underneath, and just change some of the content. So make this article 2. And let's change the art to be something else. So we've got no Wi-Fi. Let's change that to no Wi-Fi. Let's change the text. Use a different paragraph of text from the text generator. Right, so we've now got a second article. There's 1. There's 2. Let's add a third one in. The layout's not great on this. Hopefully it'll sort itself out as I add some more in. But I'm fairly confident that HTML is okay. I've got a closing paragraph tag over there. Right, so let's duplicate this one again. So this will now be the indentation I'm worrying about there. So I've got div that closes there. That looks okay. That closes okay. That closes okay. That closes there. That's good. So I've got this one that closes there. That one that closes there. That one that closes there. So it looks okay. We'll keep going with this. So this is the third one. So this is a picture of some recovery trucks. And we'll put a, so this will be article 3. Different bit of text. You could have multiple paragraphs, but one will do for my purposes here. Okay, so that's number 3. Let's save that to see how we're coming along. So I'm going to copy the path, go view it in the browser. So that's looking okay so far. Obviously there's no styling there. So one more of these articles to add in. So I'll copy that again, paste it underneath, and this will be article 4. Let's use the last of our pictures. So we've not used toy phones, so we'll have that one. And we'll put a last bit of filler text in. So the 4th paragraph of lorem ipsum there from the generator. So that will go in there, like so. And I'll just refresh now. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 articles. Great. Right. Okay, so we're pretty nearly much there with the this HTML. So let's just collapse all these down. So there is our 1, 2, 3, 4 items, and There's our div there, there's our articles. Maybe that's what it didn't like. We need to close articles down here. That's better. Okay, I was worried it was missing one. Now we can see that articles is closed, the main is closed there, and that div is closed there. So use your tools to help you. It wasn't lying to me, there was an issue. I was missing the div to match with the articles one. So these 1, 2, 3, 4 are the articles inside of that. Right, so the last bit of HTML is going to be a footer. So we'll add a footer down here, HTML5 element. I'll put in a div, I'll put a paragraph in there, and I'll put in a copyright sign. So I'm using a HTML entity, which is ampersand copy semicolon. And we'll put in that. That's my email. Right, so we go and refresh now. And we're all good. Okay, so no styling, but that's the basics of our HTML. Right, so say what we're going to do is, so as you saw when I was doing that, it's important to make sure that your HTML collapses properly and you've got child elements set up within parent elements. So that's a reasonably good structure for me going forward and adding some CSS to make this mobile friendly, and that's what I'll do next. Okay, so let's add a mobile style sheet to this. So in CSS, I'm going to create myself a new file and I'll call it mobile.css. So this is going to be my CSS file, and let's put in a little bit of basic CSS to get us going. So I'm going to create a rule for the body tag, and we'll be able to see this straight away. So I'll set a font family. I'll use a nice sans serif, so Helvetica hopefully, but Arial if you're on a Windows machine. And I'm going to switch, well, I'll come back to that. So let's save that. And I'll go to my index page, and now I'm going to attach that style sheet to this document. So a couple of ways I could do this. I could use the style tag, or I could use the link tag, which is what I'm going to do. So we want to go to CSS and then mobile, pick that up, save it. Right, go back to the browser, refresh. We should see the font change, which it does. So we know that the style sheet is being picked up. Okay, so let's start putting together some styling then. So bear in mind I'm doing this for mobile first. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to switch in Chrome here to the mobile view. You can see it's looking like that so far. So there's a number of issues here to be resolved. Let's deal with these images, I think, first of all. So what I'm going to do, remember we had this articles div with these 4 articles inside of it. So I'm going to set that up. So I'm going to set articles up to be a display flex. So this will make it a flex box. And I'm going to, so that means that what will happen is that those elements will try and fit horizontally within the page, which can look a little bit weird, like so. Okay, that's obviously not what we want it to do, but we need to tweak it a little bit further. Now, with that set up as a flex, what I could then do is I could say indicate that I want it to be able to wrap. So if I say flex wrap, it would now choose to wrap, and you'll see it turns it back to pretty much how it was. But the important thing is it is now a flex box. I'll just tone the font size a little bit down at this sizing. So I'm going to use a relative unit of measurement, and then the child divs, the immediate divs, the immediate children of articles, I'm now going to set these up to be flex. So these are flex items, and what I'm doing here is indicating that they can they can expand and shrink, but they should be targeting a size of 50%. So I'd like them to fill up 50% of the available screen space. Now, because I'm likely to apply paddings and all kinds of things here, what I'm going to do for the whole of this style sheet and the desktop style sheet is I'm going to use this star selector to apply this to everything. I'm going to say box sizing of border box, and that will indicate that padding is used in calculations as well as width. That will be a true 50% with padding. Right, let's see what we've got now then. So we've got our articles here, we've got our divs. The articles are flex wrap, and these are set to 50, but they're still not doing what we would hope. Primarily, I think the issue is because of the images. So hopefully the next bit of CSS will fix that. So we'll say to the articles, if they've got images in them, those images will have a width of 100%. Right, let's go back and refresh. And there we go, we can see we've got two columns now because each of these is filling up 50%. So why did that make all the difference? Well, when you're using percentages, you should ask yourself the question 100% on what? And if we look at our HTML here, we can see that that image is inside of these divs here. So it would be 100% of that, any element that's been assigned a width, which is a parent. And this one here has been assigned 50% of the flex box. So therefore the image is going to fill up 50% of the flex box. We can see is exactly what it does with the layout here. Now I've tidied that up a little bit because it's a little bit close there. So what I am going to do is on the divs here, I'm just going to add a little bit of padding on the right hand side. Let's give it a value of say 10 pixels, and that will space these two out here, you see, like so. Just to explain why this is important. If that wasn't there, that 10% would break the layout because of the way that widths are calculated. You see how it can't fit that in now. So it is important that you do put that box sizing value in if you're going to use paddings, which are very handy, and you want to use percentages for the width, which is very handy. So there's the basics of our articles for the mobile device. Okay, now one last thing that I'll do before we move on to here. So this will be the main styling. So if you want to comment this up, feel free to do so. So now all of these were inside of main, and I am going to, as you see, there is a bit of margin and padding at the top there. So I'm going to use a trick which a lot of developers do, is that on the body I'm going to switch the padding to be 0, and I'm going to switch the margin to be 0 on the body, so everything should be nice and snug. But that's a little bit too snug. It's fine up there, it's a bit snug down here. Well, basically this is about giving us control over those distances. So I am now going to target main, which has got the articles inside it as well as the welcome message, and I'm going to indicate that I want that to have a margin of 10 so I can control it. So I know that it's the only margin being applied there, like so. We're seeing a little bit of white space now around there, which is looking good. Okay, now this design I've built here, I've tested it in multiple browsers. Main is a valid HTML5 entity tag. If I roll over, it tells me in Visual Studio Code that this is a tag. There's a reference for it there in the Mozilla documentation. When I tested this in multiple browsers though, it didn't recognize main in IE 11. So when a browser doesn't recognize a HTML tag, it will treat it as an inline element. So to fix that, I'm just going to set this to be display block. So that's an IE 11 fix, but it will make no difference to other browsers. So I'll just put that in there to tell IE 11 that this is a block element. Right, okay, so that's the main bit done. May as well just quickly do the footer before we look at the navigation, because the navigation is probably the most difficult of these features. So we did create ourselves a little footer down here. So let's create a rule for the footer, which is HTML5 element. I'm going to give it a background, and I'm going to use RGBA because I want it to be black. So that's the red, the green, and the blue all set to 0 to black, and let's give it an opacity of 0.8. I'm going to repeating that trick with the navigation bar in a second. So let's save that and refresh, and let's switch this off so you can see it. Oh, you can just about see it down there. There is the so that's the desktop view, so it's not very pretty at the moment, but what I am going to do there is I'm going to give this well, first of all, let's target the paragraph inside of there, which has got our text in it. So we'll say, are you in the footer? Are you in the div? Are you in the paragraph tag? If you are, let's set you to be white text. Let's align you to the center. So notice the international English spelling of colour and centre. We don't spell it like that in the UK, but we do when we're writing CSS. And let's make it a little bit smaller than the normal. Refresh. You can see that there. Obviously that's not in the mobile view. If I did put it in the mobile view, struggle to see it. There it is. So it doesn't look great, that, so what I need to do is I'm going to give this a nice margin at the top, and I'm going to give it a padding of 40 pixels just give it to make it a nice fat footer, as it used to be called. There we go, there's a nice fat footer, and our content is laid out in 2 columns there. So next thing is obviously the navigation bar. That's the big issue for this layout. Right, so let's sort out this navigation bar. So just tidy this up. So we had our footer styling down here, and that was the last thing we did. So the next thing we're going to do is the navigation bar, so the header and nav styling. Right, so what I'm going to do then is our navigation bar is up here. We had a div called header container, we had a header, and then we had the name of the site, we had a SVG here, which is a burger menu, icon, the 3 bars, and then we had our hyperlinks. So you can't see the burger menu, but it is up there. Let's show you that, prove that we can, because we'll create a rule for the header container. Give us a nice background colour. So we want the header container, and I'll use background, and because I want to use RGBA again. RGBA. It's picking up the one I've already used. I dropped it because I wasn't fast enough. Right, 0. So that's the R, the G, the B, and then the alpha transparency. Right, so there we go. You can now see the burger menu. And you can see all the fonts are wrong colour, but no problem. We'll sort those all out in a second. So the header has got this text in it, it's got this burger menu, and then it's got this nav inside of here. It's got the H2 in it, so let's make that white. There we go, and we'll get rid of any margin on there as well. Let's see, that gives us a space up at the top because there was a margin up there which was keeping it away from the top. And I will say to that header div, so any divs inside of the header, let's give them a 10 pixel padding. So these are 10 pixel padding there on both this guy and the burger menu. We do want the burger menu up over here though. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a rule for the header, and I'm going to say that it's display flex. Now that will try and fit these 3 bits of content horizontally, which isn't what we want, but you can see that it has done what I've asked it to do. So like we did with the main content, I'm now going to say flex wrap. So it will wrap if it needs to. It can't at the moment. Now the reason why I'm putting wrap in there, we'll see in a second. But let's just define the content. So we'll put space between. Should be one of the options. It is. And I'll space these out evenly across the top like so. Okay, we're getting there. We just need to sort out what's going to happen with this nav. The nav is going to appear underneath there. So what I'm going to do is, there's the nav with our hyperlinks in it. So I'm going to say to the nav that it is a flex item. So I'm going to say it can expand and it can shrink, but it takes up 100% of the space. Now, by doing that, and because I've got wrap set, it's going to force this to go underneath. Let's just show you that. There we go. So these are all in the same flex container, but because the nav there is on 100%, it's going to fill out 100% of the space, and that means that it takes up a new line. There you go, you can see them a bit better there. So that's flexed, and that's flexed to fill out 100% of the space. Great. Okay, so I can now get on with styling the navigation bar. So it's got a UL in it, an unordered list. So let's get rid of the padding on that. Let's get rid of the margin on that, because these HTML elements will come with default margins and paddings. And also get rid of the list style. So that'll get rid of the bullets. The reason I do use a list though is because screen reading technology will like the fact it's a list. So there we go. That's all listed there without any padding. One of those wasn't acting as a hyperlink now. That's because the anchor tag there was in the wrong location. That's a bit better. Right, you notice that that wasn't right. Now if we refresh, that's a bit better. Okay, now the nice thing about these unordered lists, dead easy to style, because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say nav ul li. Each one of those list items, let's give them a padding of 8 pixels top and bottom, 5 pixels left, right, and let's draw a little border along the bottom, 1 pixel, solid, let's have a light grey colour. Right, so now these should all appear like so. You can see it starts to look a little bit more like a mobile menu. The colouring of the links is picking up the defaults for the anchor tag, so let's overrule that. So we'll say if you're a list item anchor tag, that your colour is white again, and the new text decoration is none, so that takes off the default underline. Right, so save that. That's looking a lot better. Now when you roll over these, you can see that they that's picking up, it's clickable. If I go over here, it's not actually following those links, which it should do. Clicked here, it does, so there's no file there. Now on a mobile, you probably want your users with their chunky little fingers to be able to click over here as well as over there. So this is a little trick which doesn't give you any kind of visual payback, but gives you usability, because if I say display block, an anchor tag is by default an inline element, this will make it behave as a block element, so it will stretch out across the whole width of the page. So if I clicked over here, it does follow that link, even though there's obviously nothing behind it, so that's going to make it much more user friendly on a mobile device. Great, okay, right, so the only thing left to do is actually get this work to show and hide as you'd expect a mobile panel to do. Let's do that quickly. So this is going to involve a little bit of JavaScript, not much. So first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that the nav is initially let's give it an overflow of hidden, because we're going to be messing around with its height value in JavaScript in a second, and then we're going to put in a transition, and we're going to say that the height will transition, it'll take 0.5 of a second to do so. So you won't see any change just yet, because what we're now going to do is just add in a little bit of JavaScript in order to get this to work effectively to create a mobile drop down. So in JS over here, I'm going to create myself a new file, and I'll call this main.js, and I'm going to put in a immediately invoked function expression. So I'll put in a pair of parentheses, put in a function, put in another pair of parentheses, pair of curly braces, pair of parentheses. Okay, so that's going to be where we'll start our code and we'll end our code. Let's stick a console in just to prove that the JavaScript is working. Right, and in our index page, I'll load this JavaScript in at the bottom of the page here before the closing body tag. So, script :src, and then we've got our main.js. Right, so we've got our console open, refresh. Hello, hi. Okay, so we know the JavaScript is set up and ready to roll. So let's declare some variables that we're going to need here. So I'm going to create a var for the burger menu, and this is going to be our, let's see, we had inside of here, we've got our burger menu here, and we gave that an ID, so we can use document.getElementById, and then we can pick it up. Great, and then we'll create a var for the burger menu container, because we're going to be interested in its width, and we'll say document.querySelector. It's this that I'm interested in. It's got a class, so I'll use querySelector. It was called burger menu container. Right, so that's that one, and we'll create a var for the nav bar. So that's our nav bar here. We can use querySelector again for that. So that will just be nav. There's only one of these. And we'll create a var for the nav height. We're going to want to manipulate this, so that's why we're doing all of this. So that's going to be the nav bar dot offset height. which we can use to retrieve the height of the element via JavaScript. We're having to do all of this because we can't via CSS calculate the height. The height will vary if we want to add new menu items in, so we have to do this via JavaScript, I'm afraid. And then I'll have a little flag, so nav bar status, to tell me what the status of the navigation bar is, because we're going to show and hide it. Right, now let's build the mobile menu. So what we're going to do is I'm going to say we only want this to occur when we're working on a mobile device. So we're going to say if window.getComputedStyle burger menu container. So we're going to find out whether it is set to be .display, whether it's not none. Because on the desktop we will make it none, we'll come to that. So if that's the case, we'll say that the nav bar, its style is going to be, and its height is going to be no pixels. Okay, so that's going to hide the navigation bar for us. Let's show you what we mean. So we go to here, refresh. That's hidden it, and the way it's hidden it is because it's set the navigation bar to have a height of 0. You can see there that's been set by the JavaScript. And you see when we do the desktop version of this styling, that will be hidden automatically, so it won't set that to be 0. Right, so next up then, we'll say that the burger menu, that's our bar here. When that is clicked, so we'll add an event listener. So when that's clicked, we'll call a function, an event handler, and we'll say, okay, we need to toggle this. So if nav bar status is true, so if it's visible, we'll set nav bar status to false to toggle it, and we'll say that the nav bar now has a style height of 0 again. Okay, so that's going to hide it. And I'm also going to set the burger menu. We'll do this in a second. Let's just get this working first of all, and then we'll say else. So we'll say nav bar status of true this time. So this is a reverse of the toggle, and then the nav bar style dot height will be equal to our nav height. So we need to add the pixels in here. Right, so let's try that. Here we go, so there's our little menu, and the last thing I want to do on this is I want to change that to a crosshair when it's down to close it. So given that it's in here, it's this image, it's burger menu, we've actually already got a variable for it, which is burger menu here. So what we could then do is we'll just toggle the source of that. So we'll say set attribute of source. So when the menu is up, we'll show the white menu SVG file, which is the burger menu, and the reverse of that would be down here. We'll set the burger menu. We'll set the attribute on that to have a source of images, and this would be white close, which is an SVG set up with a little crosshair. Right, here we go. There we go. There's our little burger menu, and there's our mobile view effectively finished now. So we've got our menu at the top, we've got our content laid out, and we can't see it as a footer down there. There's the footer as well. Okay, great. So the last thing to do is sort out the desktop view. Okay, so we need to now set up our desktop view. So if I come out to desktop, you see it's a complete mess. So let's sort this out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new file. And this is going to be desktop.css. And I want this to kick in when our users are on a device which is got a screen width bigger than 680. So I'm going to put in a link tag, and we'll say we'll load in the CSS desktop, but we'll only do that using a media query. So we'll say only screen and min width of 680 pixels. Okay, right, so if our users are on a bigger screen over 680, they're going to get the desktop style sheet. So let's just test that works. So we'll put in a body, put in a background colour of red, just very roughly. So if I now refresh, you see it's made that red, so we can see that that style sheet's been picked up. Okay, we ain't going to do that. We're going to do a little bit more sophisticated stuff than that. Right, so first of all, let's deal with the navigation bar. So the burger menu container, we now want to say display none. Okay, so that's going to get rid of that burger menu, like so. And because we've not got the burger menu, it's not displayed to none. So the height of that doesn't get set, so we can see the navigation bar there. Right, so let's deal with the main content first of all, then we'll look at the navigation bar. So what I'm going to do is we've got our main content. So let's just put this in the comments. This will be our main content. And what we're going to do here is we'll say that main is going to have a maximum width of 1280 pixels. I don't want it to, I'm quite happy to have white space to the left and right if need be, and if that's the case I'll put it on margin auto to centre it. There we go, so we can see that's 1280, so it's already looking a little bit better. We're sorting this out as well. Great. Now the articles, I want 4 articles across the centre now, plenty of space to do that. So I'm going to target the articles, and I'll say that flex wrap is now no wrap. Okay, and they do fit in like so. Let's increase the font size a little bit while we're here. And that's a bit better, got plenty of space to do that. And I'm also going to say that the articles and the divs actually, although that no wrap has fixed it, let's just make sure that it does respect this. I'm going to make all of those 25%. I'll give them 0 padding. Let's give them a margin on the left and right of 20 pixels. Just to lay them out a little bit more subtly. Okay. And I'll want to get these to line up with this up here as well, so I'm going to just tweak these a little bit further. So we'll say that if you are the first child div, then your margin on the left is 0. That's better. See, that's lined up nicely there. And I'll repeat that for the right hand side. So if you are the last div, if you're the last child, then the margin on the right can be 0 as well. See a subtle change over there, but not much, just a little bit, just pushed it out a little bit further. Okay, right, so navigation then, that's next up. So we've already started a little bit of tweaking in the header there, but let's take this a little bit further. So I'm going to say to the header container, let's give it a padding in the top of 20 pixels. Push that down a bit, like so. And I'm going to say that the header is going to, like main, is going to use both of these. It's going to have a max width of 1280 and a margin auto. So that's fitting a little bit nicer now in line with the content. I need to sort this out, what needs to sit along the top there. So that we to do with the nav. So we'll say the nav, let's give it a height. We can be prescriptive now because on the desktops, we'll give it a height of 80, and we'll say that it will not be 100 anymore, but fill out 80%, like so. So it now sort of fits up here, but you can see that it's still doing these vertically. So the unordered list, we'll tell that to be a display flex. So these will flex horizontally now, like so. And we'll then say that the list items, let's give those a padding of 4 pixels and get rid of the border on the bottom. So the border on the bottom, we'll get rid of that. So looking a bit better, nearly there, a little bit more subtle changes. So we'll say that the nav UL LIA, that's the anchor tags. Let's give them a margin, nothing at the top, 15 left right, and anything else in there? Oh, there's a border of none. I'll show you why we're doing that in a second. Nicely spaced. And then I want a little hover effect, so I'll say nav UL LIA hover, and if they get hovered over, let's put in a border on the bottom, which I've got none above. Let's do 3 pixels solid white. Right. That's a nice little rollover effect, and then lastly I want this over here. So the way that I'm going to do that is on the nav. This is now a flex. Let's make the nav a flex. So the nav is this here. So I'll make this display flex. But what I'm going to do then is I'm going to say justify content and flex end, which will mean it will move to the end of the flex box, which will be over on that side there. There we go. So we've now got our desktop layout sorted as well. And if I went to mobile view, see that still works. Refresh. There we go. Desktop view. Just need to refresh. It's artificial me jumping between the two, but you see that's working fine in either case. Now I'm just going to scale the screen down a little bit because one last little fix I want to put in. Let's put it into responsive view, and as I scroll down you can see you'll hit the breakpoint poof there as it goes to the mobile view. So when you're at this size here, so around between 12 and down to about 600, it's not very nice in terms of not much space around the content. So I'm just going to add in a few little tweaks to manage that scenario. So in the desktop down here, let's add in a media query. I could do this as a different style sheet, but I'm going to just do it as a media query inside of the desktop. So say if the minimum width is 680 pixels and the maximum width is 1280 pixels. So if that's the case, do this. So we're going to add some extra rules in here. Now I'll just put one in, I'll illustrate this so we can see it straight away. I'll change the colour of the header to be red. So as I refresh this now, if I move that up and down, you'll see that the header goes red. You see it goes red at that point? Okay, so we can see that's the breakpoints that it's capturing there. It's just where the screen's a little bit tight, but it's not quite a mobile. Just want to tweak things a little bit there. So I'll leave that on red so we can see it, but I'm going to put a padding now of 10 pixels on that. See, that's pushed that away nicely. Let's also do something similar for main. So we'll say padding, top bottom 0, left right 10. Let's push that a little bit away so it just pushes it from the edge. That's all we wanted to do, just to tidy it up a little bit. And maybe we'll just lastly just change the font size, just reduce it slightly in this view. Right, so there we go. So it should become a little bit, the font should increase. Oops. See the font increase there, decrease, and then goes even smaller for the mobile view. Okay, so that's another media query just to deal with those kind of intermediary sizes between 1280 desktops and 680. So things like iPads that would fall into that realm. Okay, thank you very much. So what you've got there is a basic setup. You could take that further and build other pages around it and come up with different amounts of space in the main content there, but you've got the bare bones of a template to take things further.